Greetings, YouTube. Oh, I forgot to turn my lights on. I was looking at the big purple just now, and people were talking about what they like in sci-fi settings. So if you're designing one, you're polling the community, trying to find out what folks like. And like some people like psionics, some people like ancient alien, excuse me, ruins, things like that. And somebody brought up a good point that I'd never really considered before. Is that if every player character adventure ship, or every party ship, the PC ship, has FTL, what is preventing them from just disappearing? Now you can say that, well, you need X, Y, or Z, so you're going to have to eventually go back to where there are other people. But if you have a ship capable of like manufacturing what you need from readily available materials, you go collect something, you shove it into your ship, and then the ship pre-processes it into what you need. And that isn't really all that high tech when you're talking about if you have FTL. They have programmable matter in Star Trek and Picard, I think it is. Why did you bother to go anywhere that you've ever been before? You can just keep going. You own a ship like this for a reason. And that's a really valid argument, because that means that either the bad guys or the player characters can just disappear. We don't see that in a lot of settings because the tech is, for the most part, lower. So they may have FTL drive, but they desperately need dilithium, or they're going to need to go find employment or keep going because their ships can't provide them everything they need. They still need food, and they need water, and they have contracts and things like that. And I don't think I ever read how the ships work in Firefly. I may be tired and bored with the people that made the show. Especially recently, I discovered that Nathan Fillion is supporting Whedon in his horribleness, which makes me not like Nathan Fillion. I'm hoping he can redeem himself. But I don't know how the drives work in Firefly. I don't remember. But their system was supposed to be like one solar system. It was just very, very large and had this absurd number of livable planets, which I thought was silly. Made much more sense to me if they were had been in a cluster of stars that had available planets in a sector, essentially, and they had FTL, but they needed to stay in that area because then there was a big gap between their little cluster of stars and the next cluster of stars. And for the most part, people didn't do that unless it was a one-way trip, like a generation ship or something. I think that's a much better model. But if I'm going to run a game with science fiction, I want to avoid that because I like the idea of ships that are very fast, but sublight. I mean, I'll even throw out inertialess drives. Ships that can go from a standing position relative to the universe. I know that to the speed of light instantaneously, and you're at the speed of light, or anywhere between if you want. So they can get within a system very rapidly, but you don't want to be traveling to the next star at light speed, because the closest one to us is still going to take you 4 years. It's a long haul. And then I avoid that problem by then having jump gates. So there are jump gates located at suns. The sun itself is the gravitational lens that is what allows the jump gate to function, and they set up 2 of them, one on either pole, one which is outbound and one is inbound, so you don't have people crashing into each other moving at incredibly high speeds. And they only can reach certain other stars, and there's a very complicated mathematical and physics process involved in there, and there's a network of them, and some stars only have a single point. You can go there and you can come back, and that's the only thing you can do with that star. So you better have a good reason to go there because you're not getting anywhere except back where you came from. And then there are stars that have multiple points. And the higher the number of jump points any system has, the more politically and financially important it becomes. They become the Londons and the New York cities and the Tokyos of the larger, you know, system. And I like to keep it galactic, even smaller than galactic. You know, like you are restricted to like a certain, like an arm of the Milky Way, and you have and no one's ever even gotten all that far inward to find out what's on, you know, what's closer to the center of the galaxy. Um, I don't like systems that are so big where people are hopping from galaxy to galaxy to galaxy. That it's too big for me. I don't like it. Uh, but FTL drives can really ruin a system in the sense that if everybody has one, they can just disappear. They don't have to come back. They can just go find someplace else. And you can have plot reasons for that doesn't happen, but it doesn't change the fact that it could still happen. Whereas if you have some kind of a limitation, like I've suggested with gates, and then just ships that can move rapidly within a star system, that alleviates that. If you're looking for somebody, admittedly, it's much harder in a big scale, you know, interstellar network. You know that they're going to have to come through a gate eventually. And if you bribe the right people, you might get noticed when they show up. So it's more manageable and it lets you do more conventional and comfortable storylines. But I thought I'd ask you folks, if how do you handle it? Do you have a problem with every ship having FTL and they can go anywhere they want to go, and there's no networking like I'm discussing with like travel highways or maybe even like, you know, lanes between stars because that's the best path for your vessel to go because of some physics and mathematical, you know, yada yada yada. This is the classic space lanes concept. I like the jump gate thing, but that's just me. Or the way Mass Effect did it. I like that way too. So let's talk about ships and how fast they move and their impact on the setting and adventures, because sometimes if you can just disappear, there goes your entire plot.